we've had to defend, and we'll continue to defend.
Tonight, Mohawks of Kahnawake uphold their membership law in the face of Canadian courts. A sentence comes down for the shooter who killed 4 and wounded 7 in Loche, Saskatchewan.
We need to always build better trust with all of our communities and with First Nations.
And following an APTN investigation, Canada's top Mountie says she won't tolerate racism in the ranks. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. There's a new twist in the ongoing dispute over Kahnawake's controversial membership law. A lawsuit led by Olympic gold medal winner Wanique Horn-Miller saw the court rule in their favor. Tom Fenario now with the details.
I said to myself I needed to make a stand, and make a stand for my children.
Almost 4 years ago, Wanique Horn-Miller spoke these words to a gathering of fellow Kahnawake Mohawks. It was here she stated her intention to challenge Kahnawake's membership law.
What's happening right now is sort of a, there's this big fervor, and it's out of control, and I think that, needed to be stopped, and the only alternative I had was a lawyer.
Horn-Miller and 15 other plaintiffs took the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake to Quebec court. They charged that the Quebec and Canadian Charter of Rights were violated as a result of Kahnawake's membership law, a law that says members must leave the community if they live with a non-Indigenous partner. Last week, they won their case.
It really is somewhat of a slap in the face for those who have abided by the law and left the community, for others to fight it and even to bring it to an outside court.
Jeremiah Johnson is a part of a grassroots group in Kahnawake who have been advocating for people with non-Indigenous partners to leave. Tactics have included protesting houses where mixed couples live, sending eviction letters, and a sign-posting campaign.
Our community is for our people.
The plaintiffs in the lawsuit describe various threats and intimidation tactics used to push people out of the community, including vandalism of property. Johnson says his group does not condone the use of violence or vandalism.
There's always that exception to the rule, though, where you're going to have one bad apple who's going to go and spray paint somebody's house or something.
The Quebec Superior Court judgment declares that Kahnawake's membership law violates Canada's Charter of Human Rights. It ordered the Mohawk Council to pay 6 plaintiffs a total of $35,000 of varying amounts in damages. While the council isn't thrilled to ante up, they do take solace in the fact that the court did not make a declaration regarding non-Indigenous people living in Kahnawake. They're also bracing for an upcoming Human Rights Tribunal, 5 couples brought against them.
For as long as we've taken this stance, periodically there's been these challenges that have come up, and we've had to defend, and we'll continue to defend.
APTN News reached out to Horn-Miller and other plaintiffs regarding the decision. They were either unavailable or unwilling to comment. Meanwhile, the community is reaching the end of a 3-year process to amend its membership and residency laws. And although council says never say never, it would appear that marry out, get out won't be going away anytime soon.
I mean, if in the future, somewhere down the road in 30, 40 years, there's a decision here that certain non-native people can live here, then that'll be the decision for the future. In the meantime, we have to continue to monitor and to protect and defend what we have ongoing now.
Tom Fenario, APTN National News, Kahnawake, Mohawk Territory.
And we would like to hear what you have to say about this or any other story. Here's how to contact us. Send an email to news@aptn.ca, like our APTN National News Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter @APTN News, or go to our website, aptnnews.ca. The young man who shot 4 people to death and wounded 7 others in Loche, Saskatchewan, has been sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 10 years. He can't be named because he was a youth in 2016 when he killed 2 teenage brothers, a teacher and a teacher's aide. He was sentenced as an adult today in Meadow Lake. He had earlier pleaded guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of second-degree murder, and 7 counts of attempted murder. Last month, a tragic accident took the lives of 3 young boys on Nissachaswayak Cree Nation in northern Manitoba. And now the band chief wants to prevent this from happening again. Mateo Moore, Terrence Spence, and Keithan Lobster were killed by an alleged drunk driver. They were walking and riding bikes on Highway 620, the main road leading into the community. A GoFundMe page was created by a family member of Keithan Lobster. They hope to raise money for memorial headstones and funeral costs and to possibly install lights on the highway where the boys were killed. Fundraiser closed this morning. $60,000 was raised. Marcel Moody is the chief at Nisachaway-Asik.
We're certainly going to look at it and see what we can do to improve, safety for the kids, and especially when they're on their bikes.
A recent APTN Investigates episode looked into racism in the ranks. It found dozens of racist comments about Indigenous people by RCMP officers in 2 secret Facebook groups. So we asked Canada's new top Mountie about it. Brenda Luckie is the first woman to permanently step into the role of RCMP Commissioner. Following her first appearance before the House of Commons Public Safety Committee, she addressed the media.
Such behavior will not be tolerated in the RCMP, and we will do our investigation into that. And I can't comment specifically because it's in the midst of an investigation, but we need to always build better trust with all of our communities and with First Nations. And it's, we've seen that with the Murdered and Missing Women's Inquiry. It's never too late to do the right thing.
You can find more on this story on the APTN News website. Just go to aptnnews.ca and click on Racism in the Ranks. There you'll find interviews, videos, and links to stories with the same theme. The Native Women's Association of Canada has released its 3rd report card on the National Inquiry to missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls this week. It failed in 5 of the 15 areas graded. Among the areas given a failing grade, poor communication and transparency, according to NWAC President Francine Joe.
It still comes down to the transparency, and the communication needs to be inclusive of the families. And that has improved since the beginning, but as we are coming down to the last 8 months of this inquiry at this point, we should have seen more successes. We should have seen more involvement of the families. We should be coming to have an idea of how we're going to rectify the situation.
Green Party leader Elizabeth May continued her opposition to Bill C-69. It will, among other things, overhaul the way energy sector projects are environmentally assessed and approved. May announced she has 150 amendments to the bill at a Parliament Hill press conference. She says an oversight is the lack of considering the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples in the current legislation.
My amendments include all of those recommended by the Assembly of First Nations to improve this legislation, to include that Indigenous rights are not a mere factor to be considered in the exercise of discretion, but are actually the bottom line. If you're ignoring the constitutionally enshrined rights of Indigenous peoples in legislation, then we're going to be exactly where we are now with Kinder Morgan on every project over and over again.
To Alberta now, where students from an elementary school in Edmonton learned about their family history by painting a teepee. Elder Philip Campio asked the children from Rio Terra School to research their family history and to paint what they think their family represents. Teepee will be permanently set up in the school library for the children to use.
And usually it's anything to do with nature, to do with maybe they have a clan they belong to, an animal clan, or maybe they just love flowers or butterflies, and that's what, as long as it identifies their history, their story.
Pretty cool idea. Time for a quick break, but stick around. There's much more to come. Here's a look at Wednesday's weather forecast starting on the East Coast. Sunny and 20 in Fredericton, 9 under sunny skies in Charlottetown, snow and -2 in Inukjuak, rain and +4 in La Grande. A sunny day with a high of 4 in Sept-Îles, 13 under cloudy skies in Saguenay. Cloudy across much of southern Ontario, 24 in Windsor, London, and Peterborough. A rainy day in Kapuskasing with a high of 18. In Manitoba, a chilly -6 in Churchill, +6 in Norway House and Island Lake, 16 and rain in Gimli Harbour, sunny, and 11 in Dauphin. In Saskatchewan, 11 in Yorkton, 12 in North Battleford, 13 in Saskatoon, 10 under sunny skies on Wednesday in La Ronge and Buffalo Narrows. Welcome back. A Yukon First Nation Development Corporation is getting a jump on the effects of climate change by training an elite group of wildland firefighters. Shirley McLean explains.
Little pushes. It's about little pushes. We're working as a team.
This line of wildland firefighter trainees are learning what it takes to be on the front line of forest fire. Today's lesson, looking over the city of Whitehorse, is how to build a fire break with hand tools. 18-year-old Brandon Smith is still in high school, but he wanted to be a rookie in this year's Beat the Heat boot camp because fighting fire is a family tradition.
My grandpa was a fire marshal, my dad was a firefighter, and my brother and I are getting into it as well, so definitely going to keep it going.
We're bumping up the line! Bumping up the line!
There are about 80 want-to-be firefighters taking part in the Beat the Heat boot camp. Today's lessons are being taught by members of the XY Charlie crew.
How you doing? You doing good?
A seasoned group of Yukon firefighters led by Chad Thomas, who's moving into his 15th season.
So it's orientation in a wildfire. We train them on mostly field exercises and some classroom. And we bring all these people from the communities in the Yukon and train them up so we can strengthen the crews and the first responders in the Yukon.
We have about 20 minutes to do the exam.
Training also consists of classroom theory and written testing and on-the-spot physical exercise. If they pass, the trainees can move on to more intensive training.
Fires are going to happen. There's more fire happening. So if we're prepared for it, we essentially make money on people going out and fighting fire.
The CEO of the Tawan Gwich'in Council, Dugagay Development Corporation, is pushing the Yukon to privatize the training of wildland firefighters. Ben Asquith Vision's Beat the Heat boot camp will be the launching pad to train an elite group of Yukon First Nation firefighters.
Essentially, whoever pays us more for our expertise, then we will go there. So we're going to basically build up a workforce, a labor pool, and we will then have them trained, and our goal is to have the best firefighters in North America.
It's not an easy job, but for some of these trainees like Brandon Smith, not only is fighting fire a family tradition, but it's a way to serve his community.
Just being able to have that amazing impact on the community and just do my best and give it my all.
For all those people right there, they probably don't even know what we're doing, but we're doing it for them. This is what we do, guys. And yeah, it's a fire environment.
Shirley McLean, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
It's become known as the River of Tears in Thunder Bay, with more than a dozen First Nations people found dead in city waterways in the last 2 decades. Police are working to make high-risk areas safer for citizens. Willow Fiddler has the story.
In a recent report, Thunder Bay Police say they've responded to more than 400 floodway incidents involving more than 1,200 people in the last year and a half. Data was collected from calls to service and daily foot patrols.
We might get called in for an ice rescue. We may get a call down to these areas for a group of people who may be consuming liquor or other intoxicants.
It's not noted in the study, but Detective Constable Brooke Pilley said many of the individuals encountered were Indigenous.
If I had to say, and just to be honest, I'm blunt, a fair number, unfortunately, have been Indigenous.
Project Floodway was initiated in response to recommendations from the 2015 student inquest. Jonathan Rudin is one of the lawyers who represented families.
So the inquest looked at the deaths of 7 First Nations youth who were attending high school in Thunder Bay and who died. 6 of them died after consuming alcohol, and 5 of them were found in the water in Thunder Bay. So this obviously is a very significant and important issue.
Not long after the recommendations came out, the city identified several high-risk areas along the waterways that needed increased safety measures.
We've always been patrolling these areas because these are always areas where people may engage in risky behavior, and water can introduce a dangerous element to certain types of situations.
Pilley said the goal of Project Floodway is to deter people from drinking by the rivers. In the meantime, the city is working to implement safety measures like improved lighting and clearing areas with poor visibility.
I'm hopeful that that will then discourage people from coming to these areas, engaging in risky behavior, and I think it's preventable in that sense.
In 2015, the body of Stacey DeBungy was pulled from the McIntyre River. Police were quick to call his death non-criminal, even before an autopsy was conducted. DeBungy's family and community believe police treated his death like another drunk Indian who rolled into the river.
And that's the way the whole investigation was conducted.
An investigation by the Office of the Independent Police Review Director into how police investigated DeBungy's death determined there was misconduct and neglect of duty. The Service and Police Board are also both under investigation by the province's police watchdog for how they've handled police matters involving First Nations people. Acting Police Chief Sylvie Hoff says they're committed to addressing the public's concerns.
I think what was important for us was to really listen to the concerns. So many things have been discussed in the last 2 years in various capacities.
It was a year ago when the city and police refused to acknowledge they were facing a crisis after 2 young people were found dead in the river, and both the mayor and former police chief were facing criminal charges. Hoff told media at the time it was business as usual for them.
We had to be able to show that we were still able to function as a police service.
The police now have a dedicated page on their website to update their efforts in response to the inquest recommendations and ongoing investigations. Rudin said while setting up safety measures and initiatives are a good thing for Thunder Bay, there's still something missing in all these efforts.
It's to confront the fact that racism in Thunder Bay towards Indigenous people is very much still alive, and that has to be acknowledged.
Recently, Constable Rob Stoodle pleaded guilty to discreditable conduct after he wrote a Facebook post with negative stereotypes about First Nations. In his defense at his hearing, Stoodle said he was provoked by a letter to the editor by Anishinaabe Nation Grand Chief Alvin Fiddler, published by the local newspaper. Hoff said her priority is expanding training opportunities so officers have access to education throughout their entire careers.
Whether it's looking at historical value, looking at cultural competency, looking at a number of things that really form and shape who you are as a person and as an employee here within our service.
Pilley said he will continue to track floodway-related incidents as they prepare for busier, warmer months. Willow Fiddler, APTN National News, Thunder Bay.
If you enjoyed our story on land-based education in the Northwest Territories yesterday, then you're going to want to stick around. We're heading back out on the land right after this break.
Hi, I'm Kent Driscoll in Iqaluit, and here's something we're working on for APTN National News. There were 905 babies born in Nunavut in 2015, and the majority of the mothers were under 30, making for Canada's youngest and fastest growing population. We'll introduce you to a younger Inuk mother, her infant son, and find out that when it comes to Inuit and babies, there is much more to the picture than just the statistics.
Here's a look at the rest of Wednesday's weather forecast, picking back up in sunny northern Alberta, 13 in Peace River and Fort McMurray, rain and a high of 9 in Calgary, 16 in Medicine Hat. On the west coast, another rainy day in Tofino with a high of 11, rain and 14 in Port Hardy. That rain continues in Prince Rupert with a high of 13, rain in store for Smithers as well. Sunny skies across much of Yukon, 10 in Dawson City. In NWT, 7 in Yellowknife, 6 in Ray Lakes, 18 in Fort Liard. Chile, minus 12 in Sax Harbor, plus 1 in Colville Lake. In Nunavut, minus 9 in Whale Cove, Chesterfield, and Repulse Bay. 12 below in Iqaluit, minus 5 on Wednesday in Iqaluit. Welcome back. Health and wellness is more than just a topic of discussion for one Northerner. It's a lifestyle that's turned into a rewarding business. Our reporter Charlotte Mort-Jacobs joined her at an on-the-land workshop in the Northwest Territories to learn about healthy living in the North.
Because all the tools that I've been learning in my recovery process can be applied to anything in life.
Jenny Vandermeer of the Sawtooth pulls no punches when she shares her story of recovery.
And then 5:01 p.m. on Friday, I was outside the liquor store right there because I was like, I was so good all week. All or nothing mentality is so bad for you.
Vandermeer is 16 months sober, a survivor of domestic violence, and in the last year, a business owner. Today she has brought her health and wellness company, Ever Sexy, to on-the-land students in the Northwest Territories.
Ever Sexy Health and Wellness. It was actually my spouse, James. I walked into the house and I was wearing my parka and my mucklucks, and I would come out from wearing my bush clothes basically, and he just stopped and looked at me and he said it, and I couldn't stop laughing.
Based in Norman Wells, Vandermeer helps create healthy action plans for clients. Today, Jenny listens to the students in a one-on-one consultation.
In Labrador, people are still dying from tuberculosis. Before I came here, people are still dying from tuberculosis.
Leanna Rice hails from Labrador and has personally been affected by suicide in her community. Today she is working on mental health goals.
I like the way that she breaks things down, that we can have these long-term goals and things that we want to see in the future, but then breaking them into 5-year goals and monthly goals or whatever she did, and the daily goals.
Vandermeer has gained attention from vlogging her day-to-day recovery.
Yesterday was the very first time that I put myself in a social setting where there was tons of drinking.
And Jasmine Vogue likes her message of health and wellness. She's been sober for 2 years and is balancing school and being a mom.
To me, health and wellness means working on all 4 aspects of your medicine wheel. So your physical, your mental, your emotional, and your spiritual. And keeping them all in balance.
The principles apply to anyone.
Class is dismissed for today, and students will check back with Ever Sexy to see how their health goals play out. Charlotte Moore-Jacobs, APTN National News, Blatchford Lake.
Looks like a great workshop. That is your APTN National News for this Tuesday. For more news anytime, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. There you'll find exclusives like a story on star blankets sewn for the families of the Humboldt tragedy. Now stick around for an encore presentation of Laughing Drum with Tim Fontaine. That's next. I'm Dennis Ward. Have a good night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.